I turn to a story we talked about yesterday here on the program, and that is of this person who urinated on the high altar at Basilica of St. Peter there in Rome at the Vatican. And as we talked about yesterday, I was pretty upset that they just, sort of softly ushered him off.
And I think as far as the act of reparation, I mean, I'm glad that Pope Leo has ordered such an act, but let's remember there are other reasons why the Basilica of St. Peter needs to have acts of reparation and done. Let's remember the wooden, what can only be described as idol, really.
The man was of Kosovo origin. I suspect he'll be soon described as a man who's suffering from psychological imbalances or some mental disturbances of some kind.
They should have come up there, tased the man, and literally dragged him with his pants down around his ankles through this crowd so everybody can see what will happen if you dare try this again.
By the way, my name is Joe McLean. I host a radio program called A Catholic Take, where we look at the world through a Catholic lens. I'd love for you to hang out with us. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below.
I want to get into a number of stories, but I want to start with the one out of Vatican, out of St. Peter's Basilica. The video of this, I'm going to put this in air quotes here, gentleman urinating on the altar there is appalling and disgusting on a number of levels. One, that he would do that. He would profane God's house in this way. Number two, what shocked me most was the gentle way in which he was escorted. Just like, come on, guy, come on, like, let's go, we got to move along. Like, I don't know what your reaction was, but mine was, at a minimum, he should have been tased and dragged out just for the optics of the opportunity. Like, what should be our response when some Yahoo tries this?
Yeah. I mean, I'm equally shocked that he was somehow able to get that close to the altar in order to do it in the first place. Because, the one time that I went to Rome, sadly, I didn't even have an opportunity to go inside the Basilica, but I remember just outside of St. Peter's with all of the wooden barricades. And I tried to, it was in the evening, and I was trying to get a little closer to one of the statues on the outside of Peter and Paul to get a better picture, get a little closer. And immediately when I went through somewhere I wasn't supposed to, the police were like marching towards me, giving me orders, get back on the other side. How is it not at least that level on the inside of the Basilica? That's beyond me. And I agree with you that he should have been tased and dragged out as a reminder that we take this seriously. We're not going to allow the holy sites of Christendom to be desecrated in such a disgusting manner without real consequences.
I mean, but they are going to allow it because their reaction says to the world, oh, if you try, I mean, what was it, like maybe 6 months ago, there was a guy who jumped up onto that altar, that same altar, and was kicking, kicking the candle sticks off or something like that. It was like, Clearly this is not the first incident. It's one of many incidents, but their reaction to this is so subtle, so gentle, that if I were an enemy of Holy Mother Church, I would look at that and go, oh, no big deal. Like, I can get away with this. What's the worst they're going to do? Escort me out of the church? And so all they're doing is inviting more people to try this, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And sadly, I think the nonchalant attitude towards it kind of goes along with the attitude shift, the emphasis shift, you might say, since the Second Vatican Council in the church at large. That, what did John the 23rd opened the council 2 days ago, 65 years ago, or 63 years ago, I guess, October 11th, 1962. And he said something like, in the past, the church has used very severe measures, but at this time in history, she prefers the medicine of mercy or something like that.
We're going to get into the medicine of mercy here in a minute. Okay. We'll talk all about the medicine of mercy in Knoxville, Tennessee, Charlotte, Detroit, Texas A&M. I mean, there's a whole list of places that are enjoying, air quotes here, the medicine of mercy. But this medicine of mercy in this case is only going to cause even more problem. Well, in the other case as well. But so today we are learning, the headline says that Pope Leo has ordered an immediate penitential rite in St. Peter's Basilica. This is the first one. He didn't do it for the last one. So, I mean, obviously kicking a candlestick is not as grave as urinating on the altar. Agreed. But we have a whole slew of these things. But apparently the rite of reparation has been ordered for this incident. I mean, this is pretty severe and important things. Especially today is October the 13th. We're reminded of the miracle of the sun and Our Lady of Fatima and her great time. I think too many of us we're familiar with what Our Lady said at Fatima. We're familiar with like the miracle of the sun, 70,000 people witnessing it, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like we've become numb to it, right? Maybe you think end times prophecies have just gotten to the point where it's like in one ear and out the other, and now we're not even like, we're sort of lethargic. We're not even paying attention anymore.
Yeah, and I think we forget the final words of Our Lady on that day after the spectacular miracle of biblical proportions. The last thing that she told the children was, do not offend, tell the people, do not offend God anymore, for he is already far too much offended. And that's really the heart of the Fatima message, is we need to stop offending God so profusely, so profanely, so egregiously on a daily basis, and redevelop a healthy sense of sin and its consequences, including the possibility of going to hell. As we know, she showed the children a vision of hell 3 months prior, and it was far from empty, as many in the church today, I think, believe that it is, that it's reserved to serial killers and Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler.
Right.
But a great book to cure us of that error is fairly newly released, The Hell There Is by Monsignor Charles Pope from Tan Books. Great.
Yeah, I interviewed him on that subject. It's a great read. And I agree. I think it's a real problem that many people have this false notion, this false idea that, everybody's good. This is why we eulogize everybody. And this is why eulogizing your friends, your loved ones is dangerous business, because that means you're praying less for them. If they've made it to purgatory, then they absolutely have to have your prayers. And if you're not actually praying for them, then they're in purgatory, and or you would pray that they're in purgatory. That their time there is not joyful. It's not a good time. It doesn't feel good. You're still enduring the flames of hell, just being purged of all of your worldly attachments before you can, you have to be prepared for the beatific vision. So how many souls are stuck in purgatory because we just simply won't pray for them? Because, Uncle Billy, he was just a good guy after all,
And I think as far as the act of reparation, I'm glad that Pope Leo has ordered such an act, but let's remember there are other reasons why the Basilica of St. Peter needs to be have acts of reparation and such done. Let's remember the wooden, what can only be described as idol, really, that was carried in there during the Amazon Synod that many people identified as Pachamama. Also, more recently under Pope Leo, the LGBTQ plus Jubilee pilgrimage parade, basically pride parade through the sacred halls of St. Peter's Basilica. All of that stuff is also desecrating to the church and needs to be addressed in some way.
Yeah. In fact, I was with Bishop Strickland last night. I was with Bishop Athanasius Schneider yesterday morning and with Bishop Strickland last night. And they both performed together an act of reparation for that particular event, the Pride Parade through St. Peter's Basilica. But they're unfortunately, where are the others? It's like I can hear Jesus's voice. Weren't all 10 healed? Where are the other 9? Where are the world's bishops in this? Why do they stand silent to such injustice?
Right. And why didn't the Vicar of Christ himself, modeling his behavior after our Lord, come into the temple with a whip and drive them out? You're making a mockery of the Father's house. Get out.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Do you think we're going to be up against a break here in a moment? But this guy who desecrated the altar in this way, the Vatican is its own state. It has its own governance. It's its own country. This guy should be prosecuted. Yeah, exactly. He should be prosecuted and actually, serve some time at the Vatican jail. But they probably let him go. I have no idea. I haven't been able to find what happened to this guy. Do you know what happened to this guy?
I haven't looked into it either. I would be shocked if they actually administered any kind of real justice towards him. I think I agree with you that have already given him a slap on the wrist and turned him loose. We have, especially if he happened to be a migrant or somebody in that category.
It's unbelievable. I just can't stop looking at this and just disbelief and seeing how gentle they're like, come on, guy, you got to move on. You got to move on. They should have come up there, tased the man, and literally dragged him with his pants down around his ankles through this crowd so everybody can see what will happen if you dare try this again.
I want to turn to a story we talked about yesterday here on the program, and that is the case of this person who urinated on the high altar at the Basilica of St. Peter there in Rome at the Vatican. And as we talked about yesterday, I was pretty upset that they just, sort of softly ushered him off. And by the grace of God, Pope Leo has ordered an act of reparation in response to this, which is appropriate to do. But Michael, I wanted to know whether or not you had some of the details. We're going to link to your article, permarium.com. I'll put a link to this particular article in the show notes today for you. But there's a couple of questions I had that I don't know if you have the answers, or maybe there aren't any answers. One would be, A, who was the guy? Was he a Muslim? Was this an anti-Catholic, Muslim thing that he was doing? Two, what happened to him? Did they just usher him out of the building? Does he face any charges? Like some of those details I couldn't really put my finger on.
Sure. So I was asking the director of the press office for details, and I've not actually had a response. And I think this has been the case with some other journalists. But there was a report in Italian papers by one of the respected Vaticanists, Franca Soldati, and she mentioned that the man was of Kosovo origin. Now, there hasn't really been much more information forthcoming. We don't know, therefore, what's happened to the individual. I suspect, as has been the case in the previous instances, he'll be soon described as a man who's suffering from psychological imbalances or some mental disturbances of some kind. So it's hard to say whether or not this is a direct attempt to attack the Catholic Church, or whether this was someone completely without the proper mental capacity. But certainly it's now becoming not regular, but it's becoming a recurring occasion where we had an attack earlier this year. We had an attack in 2023. So I think the Basilica security needs to certainly be more mindful of what they're actually protecting and have more of an understanding of what's going on.
Not an easy task. I've been to Rome a few times, and it's packed wall to wall with thousands and thousands and thousands of people, especially during this holy year where they're going through the holy doors. And it's very, very crowded. It's not an easy task, but at the same time, surely other people were upset just to see how such a light response. I mean, they didn't drag this man off, immediately. They just sort of ushered him off. I thought it was under responsive. What say you?
Yes, that was my thought also. And also, you, as you said, you've gone to St. Peter's yourself, so you know that altar is not at ground level. You have to climb up to it. So there's time taken to even approach it. So there should have been a response long before then, and they should have guards around the base of the Basilica also.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.